welcome to Markets Today. I'm Lata Venkatesh, and joining me from the New Delhi News Centre is Surabhi Upadhyay. Well, it was an extremely volatile day of trade in the markets, with the markets moving in and out of the red and the green, gyrating about a good 150 points for the Nifty, and after showing promise of ending perhaps a percent higher, actually ended about 0.2% lower. So what was disturbing is not the actual loss day on day, but the volatility and the choppiness in the markets. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Lata. Yes, and absolutely no sign of strength coming in back in the market. That was the day. We'll talk about that and a lot more. Let's start first with the headlines. A choppy day of trade on Dalal Street. The Nifty gyrates in a 100-point band, but finally ends flat with about an 8-point cut. The Sensex loses 30 points. Bank stocks continue to see selling, but pharma and oil and gas shares see some buying today.
The mid-cap index falls 0.3%, underperforming the blue chips. Gyrates was one stock that fell 7% on reports that the company's principal shareholders may sell up to 36% of their stake in the company. NIIT Technology also ended down 6% on a client dispute that might hit their March quarter revenues. Strides Zacolab and Shasan Pharma gained as the Competition Commission approved the merger.
JSPL gained 1.5% in trade as the Delhi High Court gives the company interim relief with respect to its cancelled blocks. Coal Secretary Anil Swarup has told CNBC TV 18 that residual mines from the first and second rounds of the auction will go to Coal India at the government dispensation price.
Well, those are some of the headlines from the markets, and here are the list of experts we have lined up for you. It's a very impressive set of experts, actually. JP Morgan's chief global strategist, a rare face on television, Joyce Chang, will tell us how she is viewing the India story relative to other emerging markets and even developed markets. John Lipsky, former managing director of the IMF, currently professor at Johns Hopkins, will analyze the trouble spots in the global economy. And from the policy space, we will speak to Coal Secretary Anil Swarup about the coal block auction, cancellation, and the matter that is now sub judice. We will also have Neelkan Mishra of Credit Suisse joining us to give us his outlook for the Indian markets.
That's the packed lineup coming your way, but first let's tell you what exactly went on as far as today's trading action goes. Volatility back on Dalal Street with a bang. The Nifty and the Sensex witnessed wild swings in trade today before closing in the red for the 5th day on trot. Let's now go across to Anuj Singhal for all the details. Anuj, choppiness back on the street?
Well, extremely volatile day, as you would expect, 2 days ahead of expiry. At one point, it looked like the market was giving a big short covering bounce and was ready to put a floor at around 8,500 and move on. At one point, the Nifty was up nearly 70 points, but then the market actually again sold off at higher levels. And that's the worry for the market, that at higher levels, there's quite a bit of selling which is coming in and taking the market lower. In fact, today it was again banks that led the sell-off from the front, and IT stocks joined in. In fact, if it wasn't for pharma stocks and a couple of stocks like HDFC, losses could have been even more. But thankfully for the bulls, there was some support from some of these heavyweights. Let's talk about the stocks that led the market lower today. The top loser was Tata Motors. That contributed 10 points to Nifty's decline, 3.5% lower on that. Infosys was down 1% and HDFC Bank was down about 1%. In fact, banks across the board again saw selling pressure. So SBI, ICICI Bank, Bank of Baroda all lower in trade by about 1%. Pharma really had a field day again. It's been a remarkable series for pharma stocks. Take a look at Lupin, new all-time highs, 90,000 crore market cap now for the stock. And we have Dr. Reddy's and Sun Pharma as well, doing quite well in trade. Some other prominent Nifty winners included HDFC. That was the top supporter of the index. GAIL was up 1.6% and NTPC was up about 1.7%. Finally, to the mid-cap side, some stocks that were losing ground today included Geometric. That was down about 7%, but from the top, it was down 12% or so. OnMobile was down 6%, and Unitech was down 3%. And on the gaining side, again, some mid-cap pharma stocks looked good. Venus Remedies was up 13%, Suven Life Sciences up 6%, and outside of pharma, Tilaknagar Industries looked good, up about 11% or so. So for now, the jury is still out on whether 8,500 would act as support or not, but the next 2 days are likely to be extremely volatile, just as volatile as we have seen today.
Yes, Anuj, point taken, volatility ahead of the expiry of the contract. But what investors should not miss or cannot miss is the continuing weakness in the Indian markets. We failed to capitalize on 3 good days when we had good news, when we had the rate cut on March 4th, when we had the insurance bill passed, and last week again when we had good news in terms of several bills getting passed, and the Dow Jones ending with a high after those dovish noises from Yellen. We didn't capitalize on all this. We have seen rank outperformance coming from a lot of other Asian markets, notably the Chinese market, the Shanghai markets. And even today, it's not just that we were falling, that we are underperforming the Asian markets and the developed markets is the message that will be not lost on investors. And that, I think, is the most important takeaway from the March series itself, Surabhi.
Right, Lata. On that note, let's actually get in a big global voice to understand what's happening around us and in India. Well, JP Morgan's chief global strategist Joyce Chang prefers developed market equities over emerging markets. However, she says that the India story stands out amongst its peers.
I think that developed market equities will be preferred over emerging markets this year, simply because we've taken down the emerging markets growth forecast in so many countries. So if you look at the BRIC countries, I mean, India is the growth story that stands out, but you have a deep recession in Russia, a recession in Brazil, and a slowdown in China. I think there's more momentum in place for European equities this year. We do see a European recovery going closer to 2% by the end of the year. I don't think that one should be surprised that there's some consolidation that's going on in India after such a strong rally. And the same thing has happened in the U.S. equity market as well. I mean, we still see positive medium-term prospects over the next 2 years, particularly if we continue to see rates come down, the fiscal stimulus take hold, and the growth numbers continue to hold up well in India. So we are overweight on a medium-term horizon, but do see that you're probably going to stay in this range for right now. The same is true on the FX side. You had a 14% appreciation of the India rupee in trade rate terms recently. So we see a period for more consolidation, given how strong the rally has been.
Well, that was some encouraging analysis, actually. Joyce Chang, a very celebrated global expert, saying that there may be near-term consolidation in India, but the medium-term story over the next couple of years is a very good one. But the immediate action is what we are going to concentrate on now. The action from the futures and options space from Nigel D'Souza.
Well, expiry is just in the next couple of trading sessions, and today the writers had a field day because the Nifty ended marginally lower, and in fact the 8,500 put as well as the 8,600 put, we saw the premium dipping on both these two strikes. So 8,500 level, traders are counting on that level, holding out at least till the expiry because that's where the highest open interest lies. While the 8,600 put, we saw the premium fall from around 65 rupees to around 50 rupees. So these traders will be hoping that in fact the Nifty expires at around that 8,550 or at least northwards of that level. The 8,650 call though, there was writing over there, so that's telling you that the upside is capped, at least in the near term. Traders looking to eat into that premium of around 15 rupees because today the premium fell from around 15 rupees to close up at around 10 rupees. Individual stock segment focus, Lupin saw big buying in today's trading session. Big outperformer, was high by close to around 5%, even though the Nifty was quite weak and was seeing selling pressure, particularly towards the end of trade from the broader markets. JSW Energy as well as Exide, both of them did see big buying, while Strides had come in for a bit of a short covering bounce. On the shorting end though, we did see Arvind did see big shorting pressure today, while Jubilant Foodworks as well was getting sold into.
Nigel, hold on there. Let's also talk about Monnet Ispat. The stock got a big boost in trade today, right, after reports indicated that Adani Power and JSW Energy are vying to buy a majority stake in the company and take management control. Tell us more. What are the numbers like? How will this impact the companies involved?
Well, on March 9, 2015, we told you first here on CNBC TV 18 that Monnet Ispat is looking at cutting its stakes in the power business as well as its sponge business. Now, reports indicate that the JSW Group as well as the Adani Group, they are in the forefront to bag management control as well as take a controlling stake in Monnet Ispat's stake in Monnet Power. Remember, Monnet Ispat, that's a listed entity, holds nearly around 87.5% stake in Monnet Power. The other bidders included the likes of Tata Power as well as an international power company, but they seem to be on the back burner now because JSW as well as the Adani Group, they seem to have outbid the Tatas as well as an international power company, and reports indicate that they're looking at closing this deal at around $500 million, and with this they're looking to get management control as well as take a majority stake in the company. Monnet Ispat has nearly around 87.5% stake in Monnet Power, and the total debt for the company is nearly around 10,000 crores. That's the last time they disclosed it on March 2014, so it'll definitely aid them in deleveraging their balance sheet.
All right, thanks a lot for that perspective, Nigel. Now let's shift focus back to the coal block auctions. Last year, the Supreme Court of India had cancelled allocation of funds for coal mines, and so far the government has managed to auction 33 of those coal mines. Speaking exclusively to CNBC TV 18, Coal Secretary Anil Swarup said the third tranche of the coal auctions will happen in the third week of April. Let's listen.
Coal India will get it on the same terms as allotment to the state governments. So they will pay the royalty and the base amount. That will be given by them to state governments, and they will continue with the mining process. The notification for the third tranche of auction should be in third week of April. And there's a likelihood of about 16 to 24 blocks to be put on auction.
Let's move on to the pharma space now, which saw quite a bit of action in trade today. Sun Pharma and Ranbaxy were leading the pack, the stocks rallying between 1 to 2%. The other gainers included Shasun Pharma, Strides Arcolab and Suven Life Sciences, all clocking gains of around 3 to 6%. Aarti Drugs, however, was the only stock that bucked that trend. Ekta Batra is now joining in to talk about all the buzz from the pharmaceutical space. Ekta, over to you.
Well, pharmaceutical stocks were definitely the big talking point in today's trading session, and I'll start with the big boy Sun Pharma, which was in focus after the Competition Commission of India approved Sun Ranbaxy's plan to sell 7 drugs to Emcure Pharma. Remember that the CCI had given the nod to Sun Pharma and Ranbaxy with riders in 2014, and the final CCI approval was contingent on the divestment of these 7 drugs, which has now finally come through. Another CCI approval that came through was for the merger of Strides with Shasun Pharmaceuticals. Remember that the merger has already been approved by NSE, BSE as well as the Shasun shareholders. Besides the CCI approval, the other 2 key approvals which are now pending include Strides shareholders, which are expected to meet on 10th of April. Also, secondly, by the court. The appointed date for the scheme of amalgamation is 1st April 2015, and the transaction is expected to be closed by June 2015. Aarti Drugs was in focus on account of US FDA import alert. The management did clarify in a press release saying that 2 of the company's facilities in Tarapur have received an import alert, but only one of the Tarapur units is a US FDA facility. Hence, the second unit was already delisted by the US FDA or from the US FDA website 2 years ago, indicating that the impact from the second unit wouldn't have been that much. Plus, the import alert will not affect the company's top line and bottom line significantly. Lastly, Suven Life Sciences was buzzing on account of the company securing 3 product patents for its new chemical entities in Canada, Japan and Korea.
All right, so that's the buzz from the pharma space, the space that actually was the safe haven today. Now let's move our attention to the global space. Actually, we had a very important person speaking to us today, John Lipsky, former managing director of the IMF and currently professor of economics at the Johns Hopkins University in the United States. He says that a rate cut by the Fed may be in the offing in 2015, but future rate hikes will depend on how the economy unfolds. Listen in.
I believe yesterday the Vice Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Stanley Fischer, spoke at the Economic Club of New York and made it clear that certainly he and his colleagues expect to be raising rates this year. How often and how far will depend upon on how the economy unfolds. The obvious issue is going to be, first, in the near term, the divergence of monetary policy between the United States and other major money centers, where you can obviously anticipate additional expansionary moves by the European Central Bank and probably by the Bank of Japan while the Federal Reserve is tightening.
All right, time for a break now, but coming up, more market opinion from Neelkant Mishra of Credit Suisse. We'll also tell you about other stocks that were in news today.